Who do you think is the best player on the Dallas Cowboys defense for 2020? Is it DeMarcus Lawrence, one of the linebackers, a secondary player, maybe a new addition? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And coming up next, a complete breakdown of the Cowboys depth chart on defense and on special teams. Now, the Cowboys defense this year, it's going to look a little bit different than what it has in years past. Hopefully, there will be more turnovers in particular. But a new coaching staff comes in. The defense is getting overhauled. They're going to be more multiple, more creative, but there are concerns and fears at all three levels, on the defensive line, at linebacker, and especially in the secondary. Now, we'll break down all of it, but we're going to begin at defensive end. You've got one locked-in, guaranteed starter. I think your best defensive player, to ask the question we opened up the show with, in DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, he's not coming off his best year. There's no way around that. Only 5 sacks was no doubt a disappointment. And the Cowboys need better production out of DeMarcus Lawrence for this upcoming season. The good news is, I think DeMarcus Lawrence will have a significant bounce back here, especially as it relates to his sack totals. I am fully expecting a double-digit sack season out of DeMarcus Lawrence. But I do want to hear from you guys as well. How many sacks do you think Tank will get in 2020? I'll put the over-under at 10.5, but make your best guesses in the comments section. Now, the real question mark on the defensive end battle is who starts opposite Tank. Maybe it's Aldon Smith, recently reinstated by the NFL, but he hasn't played since 2015. So there might be some high expectations around Smith this season, but he hasn't been close to the same, frankly, elite pass rusher that he was back in 2012. He is still a bit of an unknown and a wild card. And the same is true for Randy Gregory, who has also applied for reinstatement with the NFL. But there's no update, at least as of this filming, on when Gregory, if he will be, reinstated. The Cowboys hope to get him back, and he actually played pretty well in 2018. But when a player misses an entire NFL season, banking on them can be risky. So the Cowboys risking some bets on Randy Gregory, risking some on Aldon Smith. Maybe Dorance Armstrong steps up. He's still fairly young, but he hasn't really been able to get on the field. I think he has the best chance of the recent draft picks, if you will, to secure a spot on the roster. But entering year 3, now is the time for Dorance Armstrong. Joe Jackson might end up getting squeezed by the options at the defensive end depth chart between Dorance Armstrong, Tyrone Crawford, who we'll get to, Bradley and I as well. He didn't play much last year, but he does have some positional flex. Now, Bradley and I was a steal for the Cowboys where they got him, but in round 5, he still has to earn his roster spot. I think he will. I think it helps that this regime drafted him, but he does not have any guarantee of playing time, let alone starting. As for Tyrone Crawford, well, he'll play some defensive tackle. He'll play some defensive end as well. And he didn't play much last year. That was the big issue, right? Only a couple of games, only the 1 sack. He's never going to be an 8-sack guy. That's what the Cowboys wanted him to be. Never materialized. But he does the dirty work well, and maybe on base downs, first and second in that base 4-3, maybe you see him at defensive end and then kick inside on passing downs. Now, regardless of what the Cowboys' defense looks like this year, we're all just hoping we actually get football. That's the number one goal. So to help make sure football comes back, because I don't know about you guys, I need my sports, hope everyone out there continues to stay safe. There are Cowboys-themed face masks, a whole bunch of different styles as well, at chatsports.com/CowboysMask. That is chatsports.com/CowboysMask. There is a bit of a wait to get in line for the shipping, so if you want one, you better do it right now before you have to wait even longer. And don't worry, we put that link in the comments and the description for you guys. Let's go now from defensive end to defensive tackle. This particular spot has seen some drastic overhaul from last year to this year. Gerald McCoy, Dontari Poe, they both come in as significant new additions as the Cowboys poach a couple of former Panthers to handle the defensive line spots at the 1-technique nose guard for Dontari Poe and the more 3-technique pass rushing focused defensive tackle in Gerald McCoy. Now, both of them fared pretty well. Dontari Poe kind of had a resurgence before he ended up getting hurt. Gerald McCoy has cut some weight this offseason. I was a big fan of both of these signings. The Gerald McCoy one in particular was one that I really, really liked. But I do, of course, want to hear from you guys, not all about me. Which was the better signing? Type M for Gerald McCoy or type P for Dontari Poe? The Cowboys weren't done, though, adding defensive line talent. Neville Gallimore comes in as a third-round pick by the Cowboys out of Oklahoma. In year one, I think he'll be a rotation guy. I don't think he's going to usurp McCoy or Poe as a starter, but can he be someone who's able to contribute in year one as a pass rusher? That's my hope. Antwaun Woods, meanwhile, kind of in an awkward spot right now as it relates to the Cowboys. He's an ERFA, that's an exclusive rights free agent, hasn't yet signed his tender, but as long as the Cowboys have that tender offer out to him, Woods' options are sign it and play, or don't sign it and then don't play in the NFL. I don't think Woods is happy that he's not going to get paid much this upcoming season, and I understand that. But in reality, he's really more of a backup one technique, which would be a perfect fit for this Cowboys team. Now, those are probably your top four, which would make Trysten Hill an awkward fit as your number 5 defensive tackle. Look, he was a bust last year. No way around it. And there's a new staff in place, which A, means a fresh start, but also B, means that they didn't invest in the same way that, Rod Marinelli loved to invest in Trysten Hill. So I don't know what the future holds for Hill with this new coaching staff in place. I want to give him another shot, but I also don't want to bank on Hill and sacrifice a potentially equal, if not more likely better player at a potentially even different position. So will Trysten Hill make the Cowboys in 2020? Type Y for yes, or you guys can type N for no. It's a very awkward and tricky spot for Trysten Hill. Now, if you're wondering about my thoughts, well, I put those out already. I've busted out my way too early, still kind of 53-man roster projection. That's available on the channel. You can see exactly what I guess will happen with Trysten Hill, assuming, of course, no injuries. We also, by the way, broke down the depth chart on offense. So if you want to check those out, A, just look to the channel. B, check the description. I've got links to both of those videos available for you guys. Let's go to linebacker now. You feel good if everyone's healthy about the top, and if they're not healthy, maybe you worry a little bit about the depth. Justin March, Luke Gifford, Joe Thomas, Francis Bernard, probably all best as special teamers, although I do like Joe Thomas as a number 3 linebacker. Jaylon Smith, and this is true for a lot of the key players on defense for the Cowboys, he wasn't as good last year. Now, PFF grades are not perfect, but I think they back up what we saw from Smith this past year. Very good in 2018, if not great. And 2019, especially in terms of the pass rush and, more importantly, coverage, he struggled. You need a better Jaylon Smith in 2019, and hopefully the return of a healthy Leighton Vander Esch will also contribute to a more positive play from both of these linebackers. Now, LVE battled a neck issue this past year. Hopefully he's back and able to avoid any future issues there. And playing through it definitely hurt him, but he struggled last year. He was good as a blitzer, but coverage took a step back, missed way too many tackles. The run defense was not good. This is a player whose best attribute is chasing and running down players. He didn't make anywhere near enough plays this past year. The Cowboys brought back Sean Lee on a 1-year deal. The very smart, very intelligent veteran continues to show his worth. Hopefully he stays healthy. I feel fine at the linebacker spot in the end if you promise me mostly healthy years from Lee and Smith and Vander Esch. If those guys start getting hurt, there's some concern. But that's also the reality of life in the NFL. You can't have elite depth at every single spot. Now, we'll come back to corner and the secondary, but let's not ignore special teams here, folks. We didn't do it for the offense, so we'll do it for the defensive side of it. Greg Zuerlein, Chris Jones, LP, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, your starters, if you will. I don't know who's going to be the punt returner. Maybe it's CeeDee Lamb, maybe it's Cedric Wilson. We'll get to Chris Jones, so I got some thoughts on him, but I want to focus in on the kicker side. The Cowboys, with the way they paid Greg Zuerlein, he's probably going to be your starter. And Frank, I'd be pretty darn surprised if he wasn't. He knows the special teams coach. But was that the best move for the Cowboys? Extra point-wise, yes. Field goal percentage-wise, look, Zuerlein's been inconsistent the past couple of years. Now, injuries have been a factor in that, but I might have just rolled with the super cheap Kai Forbath and then brought in someone to compete in camp. The Cowboys said no. They gave Zerline a hefty contract. He's probably going to end up being your guy. Now, speaking of competition in camp, well, the Cowboys forgot about punter. Chris Jones, you can cut him and save well over $1 million. And the issue for Jones is that outside of 2018, those punt averages, those are bad. Those are near, if not at the bottom of the NFL. He was dead last in the NFL last year in punt average. Why would I pay money for that? If I'm the Cowboys, and I'm very surprised they haven't done so, I'm pursuing a punter. I'm bringing somebody in for camp to compete with Chris Jones, and if they're similar, goodbye Jones. I'll save the money. So I don't know about you guys. I'm typing in my C for cut. Let's go to cornerback now. You guys wanted this. I made you wait. You are welcome. Chidobe Awuzie, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Trevon Diggs, Worley, Robinson, Canada, Goodwin. Wow. Those are 8 guys that you either drafted this year or were on NFL teams last season. Figuring out who makes team, who starts, going to be the must-watch camp battle. So we'll begin with Diggs, the rookie, who for now I'll list as cornerback 4. That's just a placeholder. I don't know what he's going to look like in camp. I think, though, there's a very good chance that he ends up starting for your Dallas Cowboys in 2020. Maybe not week 1, but by the end of the year, you better hope that he is. Now, he's not guaranteed anything, but the new regime took him. They like him. They invested in him. They're going to want to make Diggs their potential number 1 cornerback down the road. For the time being, however, Awuzie is the number 1 corner. The completion percentage is too high. He's a very frustrating watch. You guys have made that point in the comments thousands of times. If he could just get his head around, things would be so much better, but he hasn't done that yet. Hopefully, and maybe, the new scheme will help make that a reality. An interesting battle, by the way, potentially for cornerback 2 if Diggs struggles early on, maybe just for the nickel corner role, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis. Now, Jordan Lewis makes more plays on the football. He gets more interceptions, ends up with being around the ball at the right time. He is a playmaker. He also allows more plays than Anthony Brown does. Now, Brown has had more coverage snaps here than Jordan Lewis, but the completion percentage is lower. The yards he's allowing per coverage snap is significantly lower, frankly. 1 less touchdown, but he doesn't make as many plays. In the end, I think the differences there kind of balance it out, and that even though I am on Team Free Jordan, Anthony Brown's not as bad as some of us want to think out there. The dark horse to start, I think, is Daryl Worley, who comes over from the Las Vegas Raiders. Cowboys signed him after the NFL draft. The way his deal is structured, I think he makes the team, but is it as a backup, or does he play a key role early on in the season? Reggie Robinson, meanwhile, is the forgotten cornerback draft pick. Maybe not forgotten, maybe overlooked makes more sense. He was a playmaker at Tulsa, fits the mold of what the Cowboys want to do, but does he need a year of learning and development and redshirt? I think that might be the case. Meanwhile, Maurice Kennedy was signed. Some of you were like, Tom, could he start? I never thought so. He doesn't have very much guaranteed money. With the additions of Diggs and Robinson and Worley, I wonder if Kennedy might end up being the odd man out, especially if the Cowboys want to keep C.J. Goodwin as not really a cornerback, but more of a pure special teams option. The rest of those guys, Westry, Burton, Smith, they're practice squad options at best right now. So what is your confidence level right now in the cornerbacks? Is it a 1, which means you're freaking out? You think they're going to allow 600 receiving yards per game? Or is it a 10? Do you think this is the best cornerback room in the NFL? I don't think either is true, but I think it's closer to 1. There's a lot of unprovenness, and I have some concerns there. They're going to need the offense to score a bunch of points this season. To wrap things up, then, it is the safety position. Xavier Woods, Clinton-Dix, Darian Thompson, Donovan Wilson, and then Luther Kirk, the UDFA, who I don't think actually ends up making the team, maybe practice squad this year for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I loved what I saw out of Woods the first couple of games. First 8 games, he was playing like a legitimate free safety. Bunch of tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. The back half of the season just wasn't the same. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was an entire defensive issue, but he wasn't the same player. The breakout I thought I saw ended up being a mirage, so I'm curious what Woods we get in 2020. Now, he'll probably play more strong safety because Clinton-Dix has been a free safety in the NFL. And the one thing I like about Clinton-Dix, yeah, there are some tackling issues, but he has consistently made plays on the football. Past 4 years, 5 interceptions, 3 interceptions, 3 interceptions, 2 interceptions. I don't know about you. I like that, and the Cowboys need more of it. All right, time now for the backups. Darian Thompson, I think, will be more of a special teamer. He can play both spots. That carries some value. But even though he's still fairly young, I don't think he's a long-term option at safety. And many of you think it might actually end up being Donovan Wilson. I saved your favorite guy for last, folks. If I can get preseason Wilson, sign me up. I am very curious to see what he looks like in camp in preseason and if the Cowboys give him a real chance to earn playing time this season. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.